Still on matters, of course, business right here. We're just picking up on different topics to expound on briefly, because they're all crucial and they're of importance to the economy. And now we cross over to looking at the maize factor, a story that has been highlighted earlier on by my team as to how the government now has released extra funds to ensure that the farmers are paid for the produce that they deliver or the produce that they sell out there. So moving forward, this is not the first time that we're having this conversation. Do you foresee a situation whereby there will be proper compensation, not really compensation, but there will be proper payments, done to the farmers as expected?
I think when you look at what has happened since of course, the outbursts that we had between the president and the CS Kiunjuri, and the kind of outcry we've had from the maize farmers, things are moving. Because when you read the stories now, one, the president actually vetoed the price of 2,300 and actually ordered the National Cereals Board to buy the commodity at 2,500 shillings, which was a good thing. Two, they have now set up a law that they're actually having a quota system move. There are 12 counties that are actually traditionally involved in maize farming. So they want to see how they can be able to have a quota system so that they can be able to buy from all these counties. Remember, the Cereals Board only buys around 2 million bags, and we produce around 46 million bags in the country. So it's a very small percentage. But most of the farmers will want to actually focus on selling to the Cereals Board. So that quota system will also help. Another thing that the CS has come up is that currently they're focusing on the small traders, people who can be able to supply less than 400 bucks. And this is the kind of farmer that we've been crying for, who can be able to be assisted. So that these ones who have big farms and who are able to probably buy from others can be first vetted so that we understand really whether they are farmers before the product can be purchased. That way then we'll see the money coming in from the national government going to the right people who are the small scale farmers with an acre or two, who are actually willing to sell their product to the Cereals Board. So it's a good move. We just want to see some kind of transparency from the ministry and the Cereals Board on how they handle these issues. Yes. All
right. Contrary to that, which is indeed a good thing, so the best thing we can do is just wait and see whether we're going to see our farmers happy in the end of the day, or at the end of the day. There's also a story that has been highlighted here as to the question of dairy, and this is contrary to basically what we would say. We're targeting the small-scale farmers, or maybe the people who sort of, sell milk in small levels. And now farmers will have to pay hefty fines up to 500,000 shillings in the event, or maybe among other raft punitive, as they would say, in the event that, of course, these proposed dairy industry regulation is to go through. It was proposed, I think this story was there on Monday, and of course these regulations have been adopted, and this could be as to issues including selling of milk to hawkers, and of course the regulations force farmers to pasteurize their own milk or send to a milk cooling facility if they lack capacity. How easy is it for that farmer, back at home, and how accessible are some of these things in the event that they want to go out there and sell their milk?
I think it's good for the dairy farmer out there to know two things first. This was not a bill before Parliament, and it had not gotten to a point where Parliament could actually debate that bill. Two, it was a draft regulation by the Kenya Dairy Board that was at the level of infant discussions, actually. So people just picked the discussions at that level, picked the draft policy and shared it out like a regulation that had been implemented, which is not the case. So the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture came out strongly and said, we are not aware of this. And the Kenya Dairy Board actually issued a statement and said, we are shelving plans for that regulation because of the outcry, so that we can be able to consult further. But let's look at the realities in the dairy industry. Right now, there's a lot of issues regarding to safety of the products that we consume, and how now we can be able to use harness technology to be able to assist the farmer. And these are the things I think that made the Dairy Board to see how they can be able to come up with a draft with regulations to actually control the market. So when you look at the regulations, other than the punitive issues of fines and the rest, which are normal anyway in laws, they are very good regulations, because you don't want people consuming raw products like milk, and then you have cases whereby people are dying or people are sick.
Yeah.
And then we run back to the same government saying, what have you done to us?
Yeah.
So they're coming up with policies whereby the farmer can have a way of moving the product from its raw form to actually storage or handing over to the milk producers, which is a good thing. But the issue, of course, is that probably they are not consulted widely to understand the issues of the farmer, so that they can also be able to be adopted in the regulations. Yes.
All right, so as it stands, we do not discuss much of it until this is clear that, of course...
it's actually...
It's just out in the air, as always. So one would wake up and decide to say that this was fake news or something of the sort. But then again, with us all orchestrated, of course, regulations that we can see in this particular document, then it clearly says that, of course, there must have been that, you know, a discussion at some point in time. It's just that it's not out there in the public domain. But like you rightfully put it, some of the key things are of importance, just to the not just to the consumer, but equally to the farmer, of course, in a bid to ensure that everything is safe and milk is safe for consumption. So this discussion will shelve it for now, and we wait to see what direction it will take. And of course, at the moment when it will come out, we'll definitely know how to tackle or to what angle to take as to it. But coming also to a story that has been highlighted right here, still on the food sector or agriculture sector, is that the Daily Nation highlights why Kenyan coffee farmers wallow in poverty as dealers make a killing. And about 7 farms control most of the trade in a system and experts called typical neocolonialism. I'm surprised that we're talking about farmers wallowing in poverty. And unajua hiyo siku, I don't know what they call it. I don't know what they call it when it's that time ya kulipwa. And sometimes the
bonus
people,
day.
A bonus, the time of the bonus. It doesn't sound like it is the case, you know, from what is painted out here. But I'm surprised that this is being highlighted.
It's good that the media is actually picking these stories. And when you look at the coffee sector, and actually we're having a discussion with someone on Tuesday regarding that issue of coffee, they are facing a myriad of challenges. One of them is the pressure for alternative usage of land.
Right.
Because when you look at the coffee industries, coffee farms around the peri-urban areas of Nairobi, they're totally extinguished. Because people are now using the land for real estate and for other uses. Another thing, another issue on the land is, of course, there is now also other alternative farming methods. People are focusing on horticulture and so many other things. And you will see people uprooting the crop because they have not been getting so much benefit from the crop. The other issue that the coffee industry has is that coffee, of course, is auctioned.
Right. And
between the farmer and the auction market, there are so many other middlemen. These middlemen, of course, need profit. So even if you get very good prices like we've been getting from in the coffee auctions, not much is getting to the farmers because of the so many people involved in that channel. And those are the issues that the government needs to address and probably set it up like we have the tea industry, where the product moves to the local factories. The local factories have an arrangement on how they can be able to sell the product, and that the money can be able to reach the farmer. So the government needs to do more in terms of convincing the coffee farmer that there is actually need to continue farming the crop. And looking at the future on how the government can be able to also assist the farmer to be able to get more in terms of quality from the crop, instead of having to go for alternative farming methods. And assuring the farmer that once the product is sold, they can be able to get their money back. And again, as a country, we need to be selfish enough and now start thinking of, can we be able to consume our own? Because we don't. We plant coffee, we sell it for other markets. We plant tea, we sell it for other markets. Actually, if you look at the local consumption, it's very low. So those are the things that we need to address. That the first market has to be the Kenyan market before we can be able to look outside
and sell outside. Well, one of the key, 3 key markets or the process of marketing for coffee farmers are market system that has been highlighted here, and of course this system, the traditional market fair, trade and direct coffee trading, and then there's that fair trade system where of course farmers are required to meet certain conditions like being in a cooperative society. Cooperatives have to meet quality standards and labor conditions, so that as outlined by the International Labour Organization, information. This is the process. And the third process being the direct trade. There's still so much expounded on that as to these particular types of trade. When you say that the government should ensure that this is streamlined for the farmers, which of the three would be the most appropriate for them to also equally get returns on what they plant?
I'll still go for the traditional cooperative societies.
Right.
That is the best, because we don't want to expose my mother, who is 65 years old, with half an acre of coffee to direct trading. Okay. It is not possible. We need to look for a way of working synergy, coming together and working through a recognized body. But then we must have regulations of these cooperatives, because the issue that was being raised, like the cooperatives, is you find one cooperative where the chairman has been in existence for the last 35 years. I know. So this guy himself is actually a cartel. A
cartel. There seems to be chairman, but
so
cartels,
we need to encourage the farmers to use the cooperative societies, but then we have to have regulations on how these cooperative societies are run, so that the farmer can be able to get value for their product.
Right, true. Something highlighted here also is that about 7 farms control most of the trade in a system an expert calls a typical neocolonialism. And I think that's basically what you're trying to say. You know, these figures, these faces have been there for the longest of time. So they're literally frustrating the people who, or the farmers who are investing on this. Also,